Today we are going to talk. Wow, that microphone is crazy oriented wrong. Okay, welcome guys to the scent bubble. Listen, today we're talking about a Louis Vuitton fragrance inspired fragrance. This is a sleeper, and you guys probably don't see a lot of men talking about it because it's a women's fragrance. But guess what? Today, it's a men's fragrance. Strap up. What's going on, guys? I am your host for the evening. Welcome to the Scent Bubble, where we talk about my fragrance journey, and I try to equip you guys based off my testimony of fragrances and whatnot. I try to equip the general public with incredible amount of resource and knowledge and things to think through before they make purchases so that you can ultimately be super confident with every purchase and avoid a lot of the traps and pitfalls and bad purchases due to lack of information. So we're talking all things fragrance. I love contributing to the conversation of fragrance, and today is no different. Listen, this fragrance is apparently cloning Louis Vuitton's, I want to say it correctly, Matiere Noir or Noir. Let me see what that translates to actually before I switch screens. Can we get a translate? Can we get a Google Translate real quick on the button here? Black matter? French to English. It's French for black matter. Somebody let me know in the comments if that's the intent of the fragrance, if it's a French-based fragrance. It looks like it might be. Anyway, this fragrance is cloning Louis Vuitton's Matiere Noir, which is black matter. It's a female fragrance, and I got to be honest, guys. We have this conversation before, how younger people, typically under 30 or 25 and under, don't mess with florals as much. They're somewhat open to having a floral note be a small piece to the puzzle of fragrance, but generally speaking, they shy away from florals. And I showed a couple of examples of that with, for instance, CK1. People say that leans feminine because it's a floral dominant fragrance. Or even, it doesn't even have to be floral. Like, let's look at a fragrance like Ganymede, where it's mineral suede forward, a very different note than what youthfulness or young people kind of go towards, which is like citrus, sweet, amber, things like that. And that's all good. Again, when I speak from the perspective of a 35-year-old man, which I am, I try to understand at the end of the day that I don't speak for all 35-year-old men. Men of color, men of different age, men of different background. We could be the same looking individual but have completely different interests. And so, in a very general sense, I think through what I've experienced as a man and what's led me to the type of nose that I have and what I'm fond of at 35. And yet I hold those ideas with a loose grip, meaning I don't assume that every 35-year-old or even many 35-year-olds that I would come across would have the same taste buds as me, because that would be ambitious and that would be idiotic of me. However, I do think that there are some general truths that might resonate with both younger and older men and men that are of equal age as me. And everything that falls in between that. I just hope that this channel serves you well with strong, honest, and passionate information from me. Now, this fragrance says that it is for women. We've seen this many times where a unisex fragrance will lean feminine or masculine. We've seen situations. I've rarely ever seen a fragrance situation where a masculine fragrance actually leans feminine. I've seen a masculine fragrance lean unisex, but not just opposite. I think for this case, I think this is a fragrance that is for women, yet should be unisex. It is floral dominant, which is why I think it kind of stays where it stays. But there's something very pleasant about this. I got to be honest, in my fragrance journey, I'm no pro. I don't even think there's a such thing as a pro, maybe a connoisseur at best. But we're all just regular people here with fragrance. This is Jean Lowe's Matiere or Maitre. It's very odd looking, the word. We'll pull it up in a second here. And this is from the house of Maison Alhambra, by the way. Kind of a sloppy introduction, but I really don't care. I kind of just speak how I feel. But it's one of those fragrances where I really think it should have been unisex, even though it's floral dominant. There's just something very light and pleasant about this. The thing that I really enjoy about florals is their way of kind of bringing you back to earth. But most florals used in fragrance have a way of kind of not only tying you down to the earth, and I'm speaking very metaphorically here, but a lot of the florals that they use are sweet, and they have different touches of natural sweetness. You know, we talk about synthetics a lot, and even expensive fragrances, not just clones, can smell synthetic and use synthetics to create the perfumery. And so one thing I love about florals is they kind of have this organicness to the approach to sweet because they're mimicking a floral, the sweetness is so toned down and it's very subtle. So you can achieve kind of this earthy, natural sweet that's just very heavenly in many cases. And that's why I absolutely love this fragrance, and I think it can lean unisex. Do I think that you should dominantly spray this? No, I think it will be a complementary layering fragrance, or if you do wear it like out in high heat or something like that, I think you go very light as a male on the sprays, but I think it's going to be complementary. I'm speaking out loud here, guys. I really love the fragrance. I don't know how it's going to work for me yet, but I do know that I want to use it in some way because it has a type of profile I don't have in my collection. And I honestly really love florals. I don't always know how they're going to work on me. Some stuff I just love smelling it in the air, not necessarily on my skin, but sometimes I do like it on myself. The balance that I try to find is not smelling like a 70-year-old woman, like a very beautiful, kind, sweet 70-year-old woman who kind of has like a potpourri, natural floral vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you don't smell like an aged woman. So that's kind of where I struggle to find the sweet spot of like how I'm going to use it. Okay, maybe it's more used as a layering fragrance. But some days I could literally just rock something like this very by itself and be pleased. Again, I know I'm probably on an island with my interest in this fragrance because I don't see a lot of people talking about it as far as men. However, it's a floral fragrance I think you should highly consider. It's very nice quality. And even though I don't necessarily know where it's going to fit yet in my wear case, I love this fragrance and I find myself grabbing it a lot and smelling it and appreciating it. And I have worn it several times and realized, you know, I want to kind of use it as a complementary layering ability. You know, florals have the ability to kind of, they just smell heavenly. You know what I'm saying? They smell earthy, but heavenly. They tap you into nature. They can freshen up a fragrance. They can sophisticate a fragrance. They're just very nice to have. And so when I come across a good floral fragrance, I really appreciate it. And I think this one's no different. It should have definitely been unisex. But there are going to be people in the comments who might have smelled this. I doubt it. But if you did smell this, there are people that might tend to think, you know, this smells like a very fresh old lady. You know, kind of a potpourri floral medley. And that's okay. I certainly can kind of get that. But I think it's a much fresher, aquatic, earthy take on it, which takes it out of the realm of old lady. You know, it's not like a super powdery floral. It's a very fresh aquatic floral, which is where I think takes it into unisex. Enough about me blabbing. We're already hitting the 10-minute mark. Let's travel here a little bit and look at Matière Noire, as it says, a female fragrance there. Top notes, we have black syrup and watery notes. Mid, we have rose, cyclamen, narcissist, just kidding, and jasmine. And then in the base, we have agarwood, oud, patchouli, incense, and benzoin. So kind of this black currant, rose-dominant floral or pink flower floral medley sitting on this kind of intriguing oud, earthy incense. And so What takes it out of the realm of old lady for me is, one, this watery note black currant top. And it's not black currant like, the whole cat piss description or whatever, that kind of pungent draw. A lot of people don't know that about black currant. It's compared to kind of a cat piss where it's like the ammonia kind of like tickle your nose hair harshness of it. But this is black currant syrup. It's smoother. So it's not like, it doesn't have this harsh bite in the opening. It's actually very soft. And to be quite honest, it's very sweet, slightly outside of the realm of floral, where it almost, I'm going to be honest, guys, if you want a really simple way to know what this smells like, this smells like white and pink florals wrapped around purple grapes. Like, imagine you had a bowl of like sliced in half grapes, purple, like rich purpley grapes. And those were covered in white and pink florals. And then sitting on the backbone of that kind of light, fresh, watery, grapey floral, you have this slight oud. It's not super apparent, just this tiny oudy, like incense. And patchouli, okay. It does have somewhat of a sweet earthiness to it, whatever, but I find that you really get a kind of incensey patchouli draw in the base, which I think sophisticates it and makes it go outside of kind of this grape floral medley. Now you have kind of this spicy, seductive, incensey mystery going on in the background, and even that touch of oud and benzoin to just kind of make it pop and jump. If we go over to the Jean Low fragrance, it's pretty much synonymous. It's missing a few ingredients. We have narcissus on top, jasmine, so the white florals. We have the pink florals in the mid with the rose and the cyclamen. And then in the base, we have the usual suspects of patchouli and oud, but instead of just a general incense note, we have frankincense, which you guys can pretty much call those synonymous, because when we say incense could be a million different things in the realm of incense, but frankincense is just a very specific kind of incensey smell. But again, long story short, this is a very similar note profile, and I think this is probably very close to the original because it's a women's fragrance. I have not smelled the original, but this is just extremely pleasant. I purchased it for $20, 100 ml, Louis Vuitton clone. I would call it a clone in this case because it copies the note profile entirely, and I can smell everything that's in it. Man, the initial blast definitely kind of has some femininity to it. You know what I'm saying? It's a little more sugary sweet, like it almost can come off like a body mist from a female, like a florally, sugary, sweet body mist. But man, when that thing dries down, this is one of those fragrances where like the opening is like 100 times, like the opening is very robust and like bold, and you're like, whoa, this is, floral, grape, incensey vibe, right? But then it settles much simpler, which is kind of like a gift and a curse. It's like, man, I really wish it maintained its opening. But in this case, since it's a women's fragrance, I think you do actually want it to settle to be a little bit lighter than what it appeared as. So that way the florals are lighter, the sweetness is lighter, the frankincense and oud and patchouli can push forward. Because if those don't push forward, then I think it does absolutely lean in the women direction. Put your nose on this though, guys. I think you'll be intrigued. Again, if you're a young guy, this is going to be so far down the list for you. It's certainly a pleasant fragrance. For $20, I would put your nose on it, and if you don't like it, give it to your grandma or your mom, depending on how old you are. But I know I want to use this kind of florally grape incense accent to one of my fragrances. I'm not quite sure yet. I see a lot of fragrances that are very simple that I would want to mess with, like, my Silver Mountain Water maybe, or Atlas or Celestial, something very like linear, maybe even one of my Calvin Klein fragrances where it's so simple you can kind of dress it up and then maybe make it a little more masculine in that way. But on the dry down, it pretty much maintains everything that it had in the opening, just died down. So, the white and pink flowers, you get 50% strength on the dry down. On the incense, I would say incense and oud kind of push forward a little more to your benefit, but it pretty much maintains its DNA structure from the beginning to the dry down. But guys, I think it's an excellent fragrance. Again, I'm repeating myself here, but that's okay. 100 ml, $20 on like a fragrance buy or TikTok shop. It is a women's fragrance. It does say it's a women's fragrance. I believe it to be unisex, and I think the older you get, the more you really appreciate floral nuance in a fragrance. I myself don't wear floral dominant fragrances, which is why I probably won't rock this completely by itself. I'm going to use it in a complementary fashion, but it is good, man, to me. That's one thing you really have to be self-conscious about. And what I mean by self-conscious is not what do other people think, but what do I actually think? Because there's going to be times in fragrance where people call something masculine or feminine, and we're judging this off of these kind of preconceived notions of like what note profiles you could associate with strength and power versus softness and earthiness, and then we associate those with gender, and it's like they're not always going to make sense. It's a very somewhat subjective kind of artistry that kind of the powers that be get to dictate how, what is what. So I say all that to say that there's going to be certain situations where you say, this unisex fragrance is definitely feminine. This unisex fragrance is definitely masculine. This masculine fragrance is probably more unisex. Oh, this female fragrance actually could be more unisex. And at the end of the day, I would never really approach it that way anyway. I would probably just approach it with, do I smell good? Do I like this? Does this work with my skin? Unfortunately, because of the way that things are, most men aren't going to go into the women's section and try fragrances on. But I'm here to tell you that somehow I thought this was a masculine fragrance. I thought it was a unisex fragrance when I ordered it, because sometimes websites don't list them correctly. And then when I got it and found out that it was a women's fragrance, I was so mad because I found that out after I had wore it and thought that it was a really good fragrance. And then I kind of just had to put myself in check and go, hey, I like this, man. So, I think it's a little much, in terms of its sweetness and whatnot. But as a floral component, I definitely want to try to mix this into some of my more simpler fragrances and make it pop. Am I saying you should buy this fragrance, guys? Yeah. But I understand that that's totally a personal preference. It would be bold and risky of you to buy this fragrance. It is of quality. It's not insane quality. I would give it an average 7 out of 10. Projection and longevity, I would give it about 4 to 5 hours of solid projection and longevity. Even though it stays on clothes for longer, I think like appropriate projection and longevity, it's going to stop around 5-6 hours and you'll have to reapply. Florals tend to stay on skin and clothes longer, but because this is a inspired fragrance, it is diluted down a bit. But man, such a pleasant fragrance. Get your nose on it, or hey, buy it for your girl. I don't think young women would rock this. I think this is, we're going to say I am recommending this, and it is a complementary fragrance to another fragrance. I would not suggest that men rock this by itself. And this is a fragrance for 25 and up, 30 and up, something like that. Let me know, as a man, have you smelled this fragrance? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever wrestled with a fragrance in terms of like wanting it to be masculine or feminine, or like trying a fragrance that Fragrantica said was unisex and then being like, no, that's definitely feminine or that's definitely masculine? I'm really interested because I rarely come across it, but it's like, for instance, Angel Share. Yeah, it's listed as unisex, but a lot of people would smell Angel Share and say that's a women's fragrance. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like very subjective there. That's not an objective truth that it's a male and female fragrance. People just said it was. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the fragrance world is your oyster. You do with it what you please and have confidence doing it. Fragrance is very much tied to a sense of self-expression. It's not just a conversation starter. It's not just a vibe maker. It's your vibe as well. And certain things that you choose to do will prioritize your personality and your expression over environmental intent or who you're around and what you're going to do or what the occasion is. Sometimes you just wear a fragrance because you want to be around it. You know what I'm saying? I've seen weird occasions where somebody rocked a fragrance that either their girl was wearing or that their mom used to wear or whatever. They'll throw it in the air just so that they can smell like they're close to their family, and that's a valid case as well. So anyways, I'm talking your ear off. This probably shouldn't have been a 20-minute episode, but I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you so much for rocking with me in the scent bubble. I hope you guys have a blessed week. Please turn your notifications on. If you're not convinced yet, guys, we are already close to 80 videos in, not including the shorts. And I have consistently posted a high quality video every single day since I started my YouTube account. You got to respect that, man. And it is quality. I put my heart and soul into everything I speak on. People might not always agree with the things that I say, but it's my journey. I look at this as a personal vlog that I make available to you guys so that hopefully if you guys are lacking information, this helps make your life easier, makes your life better. Maybe I say something dumb and it further drives you to go make a decision opposite of what I did, but it puts you in a great position because you heard me say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just hope that it can be of a benefit to you. And I love the world of fragrance. I love that it's so accessible now. And I just really see this being a community that really grows out of control now that it's so much more affordable to tap into fragrance than it's ever been. And so many choices are available now that we have the internet in full effect with online retailers. So you guys have a blessed week. Love y'all. Talk to you soon.